Hello and welcome to episode 68 of the Casual Tryhard podcast. I'm Bryan.
And I'm James.
And we are going to talk about whatever we've been doing on Arena, which this week has been a lot of limited for me.
Yeah, I played some constructed stuff, but I had some other things going on over the weekend, so I didn't get a ton of Arena time this weekend.
Totally understandable.
Yeah.
I'm in my last week of classes.
I'm glad you got a lot of limited in, though. I've been really excited about the prospect of these, the live drafts, the player drafts. Yes. I'm kind of sad that my gems ran out before I got my fill.
Yeah, no, the live drafts have been good.
Yeah.
So I started tweeting out my 7-win deck lists on Limited at Casual Tripod if you want to see the decks I've been winning with.
Yep. Unfortunately, I don't think many of them made it to Facebook, but if you want to hit us up on Facebook, you can find us at Casual Tryhard MTG. We've had a couple people shoot us some emails to let us know they're still alive. Thank you very much, Ken.
Yes.
You can do that at show@casualtryhardmtg.com. Make sure if you're looking to order any cards, I believe for some reason cards are starting to trickle into the market, even though they're not technically out. But if you want to pick up some Ikoria stuff, you can do it through our TCG affiliate link, tcg.casualtryhardmtg.com. A very small portion of that will go to help keep the show trucking. If you wanted to support us in a little bit more meaningful way, you can do so at our Patreon. It's patreon.com/casualtryhardmtg. One thing that I've been trying to do is to throw up our show notes the day before the show goes live on our Patreon. So if you want to check those out, you head over to our Patreon and, throw a couple bucks into the pool and get access to our super sweet show notes. We also have a YouTube channel at Casual Tryhard MTG. We did a sealed pool, built one the weekend the set came out. Turned out really cool. If you're interested in that, you should go check that out as well.
I keep saying I want to do a draft one, and then I just
never do.
I don't know what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
And then it's I think about it, then I don't do it. Then it's a really interesting draft, and then I'm like, no one will ever see this. Yes, exactly.
Right. Well, I mean, I always say, the interesting part of draft for me is the draft. I will gladly play out my games or whatever, but I would rather just draft and then draft again and not have to play with the, mediocre cards that I drafted. And I don't mean that, mediocre in the draft environment. I mean mediocre in the history of Magic.
Yeah. With paper Magic kind of not happening and not that normal weekly churn of decks and events to talk about. If you guys have any ideas for things that you want to talk about, please let us know.
Yeah, anything at all, whether it's gameplay stuff or deck building stuff or card evaluation stuff or whatever it is you want to hear, you have our ears. So now's the time to let us know so we can answer your questions.
Yeah, there was some news today that happened, and this is for us old-timey people.
Yeah, I mean, we knew it was coming, though.
Yeah, but
it's just sad to see it in writing.
Yeah. So Planeswalker points, the way that they used to track how much you played and how you did, those haven't been used for a while, and they are officially going away on May 27th.
Yeah, and they're taking something else with them.
What is that, other than the whole website?
Your DCI number.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, your DCI number is now null and void. It will be used for exactly no things. From what the statement said, they're going to go to a unified system where it's the same system for Magic Online, Arena, and Paper. And I know me and our local game store owner, Anthony, were talking about this a couple weeks ago. Wizards did roll out their new event reporting software that's supposed to link to an app on your phone.
Has that app shown up yet?
Yes, but you have to be invited currently.
Oh.
So it's only out for testing purposes. And I think they did that on purpose now, when there's no events going on, so people could kind of test it out and see if it's working before they're actually trying to run an event in it. So this is supposed to replace what the DCI number was.
Yeah.
Every player will have an app on their phone where when you go to like sign into a tournament, the reporting software will push a notification to the app, and then you'll select on the app, yes, I want to be part of this tournament. And that's what actually enters you to the tournament. So you won't have to like remember your DCI anymore. And supposedly this is, like I said, it's going to be linked to your Arena account and your Magic Online account as well.
Yeah, you now need to have a Wizards account, which if you can sign into Arena, they say you already have generated your Wizards account.
Yep.
Yeah, but that's sad that the DCI number is going away.
Yeah, it was kind of a badge of honor for a lot of people to have, the old school, what were they, 4-digit, 6-digit, or 8-digit DCI numbers.
Super short ones, yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it will be nice if they can somehow, like, tie your performance across all the different platforms that you play. So, like, you could track people / like, who's been the best digital player? This actual person, so they get to go do a thing. Or who's been the best player across all formats? Right. Formats being like Magic Online, Arena, and ways to play. Right, and that would be good. Yeah,
I mean, I really don't. I don't want my Arena info though. I don't want to see how many ranked games I've lost.
Yeah, that is rough.
Yep.
I have kind of taken the approach to Magic as of late that I'm just going to do what I enjoy. Yeah. And at least for the last week and a half, I've enjoyed Limited.
Yeah, because we got player drafts.
Yeah. So you're not always playing against the same archetype, though at higher ranks, that is starting to change.
Yeah.
And you're able to read a table and read signals and see what's going on. So that's way better than the bots.
Yeah, at least in my opinion, that's the fun part of drafting is reading signals, staying fluid enough to move in or out of an archetype if you have to. That's the fun part for me. Like actually playing the games with, some mediocre draft chaff isn't really that exciting. To me, at least.
Yeah.
What have you learned in your week of diving into Ikoria Limited?
Well, I learned that I was close to infinite about 3 days ago, and now I am no longer. It just
been a rough week.
Been a rough 3 days. So to give you a sense of how many drafts I've done, I can tell you exactly. I have done 47 drafts.
Man, that's a lot of drafts.
That is a lot of drafts. And I have gone 165 and 127. No, 126. It's about a 56.7% win rate.
It's nothing to shake a stick at. That's pretty good.
Yeah. The problem is it's so punishing when you have those drafts where you're you flood out, then you go 1-3 and you're like, oh, I flooded out twice, or my opponent went 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop mythic. Yeah. And you're like, oh, cool. So those are really punishing. The ones where you go 1-3, you get so little back that even going 7, getting 7 wins the next time, you don't get back to even. I've done these 47 drafts basically on $50 into Arena.
Mm-hmm. That's what you put in at the start of the season?
Mm-hmm. It's about $50 in. I have almost a complete playset of the set. I think we counted before the show. I'm missing 8 mythics.
Yeah. That's a hell of a return on investment. $50 for 40-something drafts?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, my win rate has stayed about this pretty consistent throughout. I've calculated it a few times through. There's been some times where it's a little bit higher. I was at one point 141 and 101. Yeah. So I've gone 50% or just under for the last couple days. And being at 50%, you just hemorrhage gems super fast.
Yeah.
About a 56% win rate will get you a lot of drafts.
Yeah.
And I started out not having a clue what I was doing, just doing super mediocre. Yeah, so $50, 47 drafts. That's not, and I also had done 6 sealeds off of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So in that, I've opened, how many packs have I opened? I guess I've earned 170 packs.
Yeah.
So I've opened 151 of them.
It's a lot of digital cardboard.
Yeah, so I probably have a few more mythics hanging out in there. And I think I went up 3 vault progresses since I started.
Holy moly.
3 or 4.
How many vaults you got saved up?
7.5, almost 8. So we're doing all right. So I wanted to kind of talk about the different archetypes and different things you can do.
Okay.
First, like, you have all the 2-color archetypes, and we're going to talk about which ones there are best. But you had asked, like, what are the in-between archetypes? Are there any, like, kind of weird, oddball archetypes that, like, pop up?
I guess my question was more, I haven't spent the same amount of time in this limited environment as you have. And I know, like, when we were on Ravnica, we had, like, the guilds archetyped, or the Guildgate archetype. It wasn't really one of the color pairs. It was kind of something else that was floating out there that it wasn't always present, but when it was strong, so you'd move into it. I didn't know if there was anything like that in this environment.
I think the closest thing is, like, just green good stuff.
Okay.
Where you have enough fixing in green that you just get to take whatever. Rares you see. I've had drafts where I've cast on back-to-back turns Emergent Ultimatum into Genesis Ultimatum.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, you're just like, I can just do whatever I want.
Yeah.
So those kind of decks exist, but I don't think there's anything that struck me as like, hey, this is like super out there for what you would expect the color pairs. I think that the really the controlling decks just aren't there. I don't think they're supported well enough. So like every so often you run into like a blue-black control deck, but it's super rare. Same with like a blue-white, like more controlling deck. Those are like few and far between.
Okay.
And like I don't think I've played against like the blue-black flash deck. Like that deck just doesn't seem to like come together or like exist.
That was actually one of the decks I was going to ask you about when we got, because I know, like, I kind of got a sense for what the popular archetypes are, or the popular color pairs are. Yeah. But some of the other ones, like, I don't remember seeing at all, and the flash deck was one of them that I don't think I've ever seen somebody play the flash deck.
Yeah, like the uncommon payoff in air quotes is the blue-black hybrid flash 2/2. And like that's not a big enough, like reducing the cost of your flash cards by 1 is not a big enough like payoff. Like that card gets played like never. It's just not good enough because it doesn't do something. Like it's just a 2/2. And like now we don't print bears. Right. All of our bears are like bears with upside and like a wall of text.
Yeah. They're all tax pieces instead.
They're tax pieces or the red and white 2/2s for 2.
Oh, yeah.
Have a triggered ability. They cycle. The green 2/2 for 2 has a triggered ability. The black one has Death Touch. Well, it's not a 2/2. It's a 2/1. Has Death Touch or Lifelink.
Lifelink, yeah.
Right? Like, they all do something extra. Yeah. Like, there's just not, like, bears anymore. So, like, the fact that flash uncommon is just a bear, but it's super below rate. Yeah. The format's weird in that, like, there are, like, the aggressive decks seem like they have to be really good to compete. Because if you just...
Because mid-range is so good?
Yeah, if you just have, like, a 5 or a 6 out of 10, like, red-white aggressive deck that's not, like, a cycling deck that's just, like, red-white go wide... Yeah. Like, you have to draw perfect every time, and you might still get clowned.
Now, is that because of the companions? Or I guess my next question would be, are the companions that in-between archetype I was looking for?
Maybe. So, it depends on the companion.
Yeah.
Like, Karuga is just, like, 3 or 4 color green. Yeah. It's just the archetype you play with that card. What's the red-white one called?
Ketria? No.
No, Zerka?
I'm not
Whatever,
sure.
the red-white, the one red-white hybrid 3/3. Yeah. I think that one goes really well in the cycling decks. And like you end up just kind of having to build the cycling deck to get enough permanents.
Yeah.
since cycling counts as an activated ability when it's on the battlefield, even though you can't activate it when it's on the battlefield.
Yeah, it's weird.
It is weird. There's not a deck that you play with a companion that you wouldn't otherwise like play without the companion. I feel like a lot of times that the
Zerda.
Yeah. Is the red white one. The companions a lot of times support what the
color's trying to do.
What your colors were trying to do anyway. Like, was it Obash? Like,
yeah, the odd guy.
Yeah, that it just wants you to be a red-black aggressive deck.
Yeah,
and that's what red-black is anyway. You lose, you lose the rare because it's an even, but you're just a red-black aggressive deck. So you've not really like made that kind of sacrifice.
Right.
So yeah, I don't think that like you get a companion and end up in a weird deck you wouldn't otherwise end up in. Sometimes your deck does end up a little like meh.
Yeah.
Like I've had Garuda decks that I've had to play like 19 lands in because I just didn't end up with enough even costed stuff.
Yeah.
And you're just like, all right, well, that's fine. I'll just need to hit my 6 land drop and hope good stuff happens.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but I mean, then that dilutes your hits too.
It does. Your hits go down, but it's still worth it.
Yeah.
To be able to do that. But I've had a couple decks where like I've just ended up taking the companion late enough that it just is a rare in my deck.
Yeah.
Where like I'm not able to switch to the companion.
Yeah.
We have a whole companion section later on.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit. So you want to talk about some of the, like your favorite or the strongest archetypes or color pairs?
Yeah. So by far the best deck in the format is red-white cycling.
Okay.
There are
so much so that there's like a standard deck that's red-white cycling also that we'll also talk about later.
Yeah. But basically it'll have draws where you just you can't do anything. Where you're just like, oh, I'm going to die now.
Yeah.
Like on turn 3, you're like, oh, I'm dead. And you might not die till turn 6, but you just have no agency over the game.
Yeah.
Where they're like, cycle a thing, tap your blocker, deal you a damage, swing for 4, cycle a thing, deal you a damage, tap your thing, and you just take like 5 damage a turn for 4 turns, and you're like, I get okay.
Yeah.
If you want to get into the red-white cycling deck, the most important thing is the payoffs. Like you take the payoffs first, because once you're in the red-white cycling deck, you just get to take 5 colors of cyclers.
Yeah, in like the cyclers that you want are the 1 mana ones that like none of the other archetypes want anyway.
Yeah, like no one really wants memory. What is it? Memory leak?
Memory lapse?
Memory something.
Yeah, memory whatever.
Yeah,
the discard spell.
Yeah, no one wants that card. I think I've seen it cast like 3 times. Right? Yep. No one wants that spell. That spell is just cycling 1.
Yeah. And nobody really wants the 3 blue tap 2 things.
No. Basically, you end up getting your payoffs early, and then you're getting playable, in air quotes, cards, like 14th pick, because you got a wilt.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, okay. So that deck comes together really well, just because it's a 5-color deck that only needs like the uncommons and some commons from 1 color pair, but then it just gets all the trash no one wants. So by far the best payoff for the deck is Zenith Flare by like a mile.
Yeah, that's 2 white-red, deal damage equal to the number of cycling cards in your graveyard, gain that much life?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you will be playing and you will be at 13. And your opponent will just at the end of turn start cycling for no value.
Right.
And you know they're either digging for their flare or they have it and they were off a few cyclers.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I can't do anything about this. I guess I'm just dead.
And then you just die.
Yeah, you've stabilized, everything looks good, and then you get like blown up for 13.
Yeah.
Or you get like they have 2 of them and they 7 you and 7 you again.
Yep.
So like Zenith Flare is so good that you can pick the gold card, and just go in.
Yeah.
Because the cycling decks that have a Zenith Flare are infinitely better than the cycling decks that don't.
Yeah, like you said, once you get a couple good payoffs, the deck kind of builds itself too. It's not an archetype that you have to work for and count the number of creatures you have and make sure you have some removal spells and make sure you have some interaction and then make sure your curve is good, because once you have the payoffs, nobody wants the rest of the garbage. So it just kind of like fills itself out.
Yeah. So depending on kind of when you're picking them, I think, is it Save Thundermane, the red-white 3/2 that when you cycle you can pay 2 and deal 2 to a creature and gain 2 life.
Yep.
That's the next best payoff to like put you in the deck. If you're like, if you see that, like if your rare is kind of and you see that, like you can take that and kind of be in, but it's not nearly as good as Zenith Flare.
Right.
But
it only hits creatures, so.
It only hits creatures. But it can really control a board. There have been times where I've been on the draw.
Yeah.
And they go 3/2. And I'm like,
Oh,
I can't play my 2/2. Or I have to play it and hope they don't have a 1-mana cycler.
Right.
Or a land on turn 3. And you're just like, please, 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 please. And they always do. And you get 0 for 1. You're like, oh, awful. But if you're already in the archetype, I think that Drannith Stinger, the 1 and a red 2/2 with cycling 1, and then when you cycle something, it deals a damage. Like that might be the next best payoff as the common.
Okay.
Because the more of those you have, like the more times that you're just like a little bit of chip damage early and your opponent's at like 8. Yeah. And you're like, cool, I'll cycle 3 cards on your end step. You're at 5.
Yeah.
I'm going to
untap. It's easy to set up a win from there.
Yeah, and you just like, you're like, oh, I'm going to kill you over the course of 2 turns because I'm going to cycle like my whole hand.
Right.
And so the more of those you get, the better off you are. Flourishing Fox and Valiant Rescuer, like Flourishing Fox is the 1-mana 1/1 that cycles and gets a +1/+1 counter. It's fine. It's good in the early game, but like I don't think you can, like I wouldn't see that and say, hey, I'm going in on cycling because like there's an early Fox. Like that one is less powerful. There's a lot of like 1/1s running around in some of the decks, and so like it sometimes doesn't get through.
Yeah, and it's also an awkward one, like to get bounced against the mutate deck or something.
Yeah. Valiant Rescuer, the 3/1 that when you cycle, you get 1. The first time you cycle each turn, you get a 1/1.
Yeah.
And then you can pay 2 and cycle it. It's good, but I think it kind of is a different version of the red-white cycling deck. It's more of like a go wide deck.
Yeah, that version really wants an anthem too.
It does. It wants what's the white thing?
I didn't know we had one. I was trying to think of one because I was playing the cycling deck a little bit in standard, and whenever I stuck a rescuer, I just desperately needed a way to anthem my team a little bit.
It's the uncommon. It's 2 and a white. All humans get +1/+1.
Okay.
And Sanctuary Lockdown. And then you can pay 2 and tap 2 untapped humans to tap a creature an opponent controls.
The enchantment. Yeah.
So it gives all your humans +1/+1. But I think that Vigilant Rescuer, again, is something if you take it early, you're not committing to the cycling deck, because it also works well in like a red-white kind of go wide deck, or I've had like success with like white-black go wide with Bastion of Remembrance.
Which, like the humans deck.
Yeah, which that card is nuts. We'll talk about it in a second. And then like Snare Tacticians, they come around late enough that you don't really have to prioritize them. Like,
that's the tapper?
That's the tapper. Like you want 2 or 3 of them, but you're usually able to get them in the middle of the pack. You don't have
nobody else really wants them.
Yeah, and it's not something that like pack 1 you're going to take a Snare Tactician and be like, we're doing this.
Right.
The other payoffs, there's a Reptilian Reflection, the red enchantment that becomes a 5/4 trampler with haste.
How do you feel about that?
I think it's really, really good if you stick it on turn like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I think it's worse later in the game, and I would just rather have the reach of like Zenith Flare or Stingers. But again, that's one I don't think you take it early and go in. I think you.
What about the removal spell? The 1 in a red, deal damage equal the number of
Blitz
instances
of the Thunder Lizard?
Yeah, something like that.
I think that card's really good, but you do have to have really prioritized cycling spells.
Yeah.
Right, so like the dinosaur...
Well, like you were saying, though, that they come, like at the end of the draft, they come to you, though.
Yeah, they do. They will come to you on later picks.
Yeah.
They will show up. But like you don't want your 1-mana cyclers to be the Flourishing Foxes or Imposing Vantasaurs.
Yeah.
Right? That's where you want the Frost spell or Memory Leak to be your cyclers.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that card, I've definitely had turns where I've been like 5-year thing. But I don't.
Well, the reason I was asking is because that's really the only card that overlaps with another archetype. Like the spells deck wants that. That's supposed to be a spells card.
Yeah.
But the cycling deck can make good use of it too. That's why I was asking.
I don't think that's another one that I don't think that that's not a spell you take early.
Right.
Because you take that spell and you think, okay, I want to be red.
Mm-hmm.
But depending on how the rest of the draft shakes out, that spell might do stone nothing in your deck.
Yeah.
And it's not good enough to like build your deck around turning it on. Not when there's like Fire Prophecy, which is that with kind of pseudo draw card tacked onto it.
Yeah, it's almost a card.
Right? When you have a common that's just 3 damage, and then the uncommon is sometimes 0 damage, sometimes 3 damage, and sometimes 8.
Yeah.
Right? You can't take that and be like, all right, we're the cycling deck, we're doing this.
Yeah.
But like you said, pick 6 or 7, you already are kind of feeling the cycling.
Yeah.
Then absolutely, you can take that and then just prioritize like, what is it? Go for Blood, the cycling fight spell, and those over other things. One of my favorite cycling cards to pick up is Shredded Sails. That's the 1 in a red, destroy target artifact or deal 4 damage to a flyer.
Yeah.
It is sometimes just the best removal spell in your deck.
Yeah.
And, most of the time you cycle it. But, like, if you have a pack where you have Raking Claws or Shredded Sails, I think you almost always take Shredded Sails.
Okay.
I guess the Prickly Marmoset is a payoff, but that card comes around super late if cycling's open and doesn't really put you in the archetype. I've seen Zenith Flare's second pack and been like, I have made a terrible mistake. Why am I not in red-white? I'm not going to bail for it pack 2, but I'm like, oh no. It could have been there.
Yeah. How much do you prioritize like the 1-mana cyclers over the 2-mana cyclers in this deck? Like if you have your Shredded Sails, which is a 2-mana cycler, is it more important to have that little bit of versatility than it is to pick up like a 1-mana cycler, like the enchantment to give something haste?
I think you prioritize 1-mana cyclers over the 2-mana cyclers almost always, because if your deck is built right, in air quotes, you're playing like 14 lands.
That was going to be my next question, is how many
15.
lands these...
I usually go to 15. So you need those 1-mana cyclers to hit your land drops early. And this is also where like Zenith Flare is also just a huge bailout.
Yeah.
Right? Because you cycle on turn 1 for no value. You cycle on turn 2 for no value, but you hit your second land drop, and then you cycle a third time. Now when you draw your Zenith Flare, it's at least Lightning Helix.
Yeah.
It at least deals 3 and gains you 3.
Mm-hmm.
And you've already got 3 cards in your yard for when that comes around later on anyway. And so the 1-mana cyclers let you play a lower land count.
Okay.
And The problem with the deck is you will flood out because you're turning your spells into mystery cards,
Lands.
and some percent of your mystery cards are lands. Another thing that this deck really wants is it wants you to pick up 1 or 2 Cathartic Reunions.
Okay.
So that like late in the game,
you can pitch the lands.
You can pitch the lands. Like once you get to like 5 or 6 lands, usually around 5 is where I start thinking about like, do I really need to play this land? Mm-hmm. Do I see myself having a use for it in the next turn or two?
Yeah.
In case I draw like land Cathartic Reunion, then I have like 3 new cards.
Yeah.
But like, you know, if you have a pack that's kind of empty, or you have, you know, a bunch of cyclers already, you can take a Cathartic Reunion. Like if it's a Wilt or a Cathartic Reunion, like take the Cathartic Reunion because like Wilt is super replaceable because there are just so many 2-mana cyclers.
Yeah, and just realize that you have Cathartic Reunion in your deck and you need to, you know, maintain some amount of cards in hand.
Yeah. Yeah, so you just want to make sure that you keep your lands in hand for the Cathartic Reunion.
And then you have 1 off-color spell here.
So I have Ominous Seas. There is a blue-red cycling deck.
Okay.
It's not very good. Like Ominous Seas, like I don't think you look at Ominous Seas and go like, all right, take an Ominous Seas, I'm going in. Like Ominous Seas takes way too long.
You're right, it does take longer. It wants to play a longer game than the cycling deck normally does. But is it worth building like a Jeskai version of this deck? Because like your mana fixing cycles too if you can pick up the artifact, right?
Yeah. If you get like a late Ominous Seas, it's fine to be Jeskai and put it in your deck, but I wouldn't look at Ominous Seas and say, all right, I need to be the cycling deck.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, okay, maybe I wheel this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think like Zenith Flare and the Thunder Main, like you can in the first 2 or 3 picks of a draft see one of those and go like, well, we're doing this.
Yeah.
Where if you see an Ominous Seas in that same point, you're going to be like, maybe this will wheel.
Mm-hmm.
The red-white deck is, I think, the best. Up in Diamond, I think I play against it about every other or every third draft.
Wow. Okay.
Is the cycling deck. If they play a Plains turn 1, you can almost guarantee they're cycling something.
Yeah, see, that's another interesting point. Like, it's kind of a downside of not playing in pod, because when you play in pod, there's only going to be one decent cycling deck and maybe one like subpar cycling deck.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're playing out of pod, you can face all cycling decks.
Yeah.
And then like if that archetype is the strongest, like the more wins you get in your draft, like the higher the chances are that you're going to, if this is the best deck, you're going to play against more of the cycling deck. So like if you rattle off 2 or 3 wins, like the chances of you going up against the cycling deck are going to be higher, right?
Yes. Yes, if that's how they pair. Yeah. Absolutely. And like the pairing is weird. Like I've been paired as high as against number 36 on the ladder in limited.
Oh.
And earlier when I was in like high platinum, low diamond, I've been paired against people in bronze.
Wow.
It's just crazy.
Huh.
So, yeah.
That's bizarre.
But I have seen that like there's a ton of the red-white cycling deck. The people that are playing at Diamond that I've played against, a lot of the cycling deck. A lot of it. So if it's open in a pod, someone is drafting it every time.
Yeah.
So I say that, and I had a 12th pick Zenith Flare. And I was like, I could have totally been this deck. Why am I playing 2 mythics in a Genesis Ultimatum? What have I done with myself? Why am I not just playing this uncommon?
Yeah.
So there's kind of how you get into the red-white deck. It's really the uncommons, and then prioritizing 1 mana cyclers, and Draenith Stinger is like the best common, I think, for the archetype. That's not like pacifism or Fire Prophecy. Mm-hmm. Right, but Draenith Stinger, I have played against people that have cycled 4 of them in a game, And I'm like,
Wow.
how did you get 4? Like, there's another like draw where they just have 4 on the battlefield and they pay 1 mana and deal you 4.
Right.
You're just like, yeah. The white one, the Draenith Healer, I do believe is what it's called. That card is just a 1 mana cycler. Like, the value that it gives you is so minuscule. It doesn't really matter. Like, I wouldn't prioritize that at all. If you had the Stinger and the Healer in the same pack, you take the Stinger every time.
Yeah. Lightning Bolt and Healing Salve have taught us that damage is worth more than gaining life.
This is very true. So the black-white and red-black aggressive decks, I think the ways that you fall into those is really like with Bastion of Remembrance or Weaponize the Monsters.
Okay.
So Bastion of Remembrance is 2 and a black for an enchantment that makes a 1/1 when it comes into play. And whenever any of your creatures dies, you gain a life and your opponent loses a life.
Yep.
And so if you get an early Bastion of Remembrance, you can just build this low to the ground aggressive deck that, has a good mix of removal with dire tactics and pacifism and the black removal. And then just a bunch of cannon fodder where you're just attacking every single turn. But really, I first picked Bastion of Remembrance and made really good aggressive black-white decks where you just want everything that makes a body. So Day Squad Marshal or what's the black one? It's the black one, Night Squad Marshal? Night Squad Commando.
Yeah,
right?
yep.
They both make bodies. You want those. And then the Serrated Scorpion is great in that deck because it does 3.
Yeah. And Whisper Squad?
Yes, Whisper. I just lost to a Whisper Squad and to get Whisper Squad into Bastion of Remembrance, into get a Whisper Squad, play Day Marshal. Yeah. And I was like, all right, I can't ever block now. Like, I was trying to race them, and I was close because I had the coordinated charge in my hand. But I just couldn't. I was like just like a half a turn too slow, and I was like, great. But yeah, Bastion of Remembrance is another uncommon that if you see it early, you can just go in on like this, go wide, like beat down attrition deck. And just kind of lean into that. Yeah. A card that's really good. It's a rare, but it wheels a lot. You get it really late. Is the Mardu
enchantment? Offspring's Revenge.
Offspring's Revenge. There we go.
Yeah.
So that plus Bastion of Remembrance, you just need things to die.
Doesn't matter what it is.
You just at the beginning of the game, you play your Boot Nipper, give it Death Touch, and you just run it into things until they block it. Yeah, and then you just throw whatever you want. You're like attack, they're like block. You're like cool. Night Squad, get 2 things. Play your Bastion the next turn, attack with everything, and then the following turn you're just like Offspring's Revenge. Everything that died is going to come back slowly but surely, and it's just going to drain you.
Right.
And that wheels, or you get it 6th, 7th pick a lot. And then you can just use that with all kind of your like black and white or red and white creatures. Yeah. To just deal a ton of damage and just gum up the ground.
Now, is that a deck that probably also wants that 3-mana reanimate spell? The Call of the Death Dealer or whatever?
I'm sure it would. I've never had that in that deck.
Okay.
But yes, I think that if you could get it, I'm here for it. Again, the same kind of thing. You just want things to like gum up the ground and come back. Right. And being able to bring back, a Whisper Squad and and then whatever random a Boot Nipper. You're like, hey, cool. This is either 3 damage if you don't block, or it's 2 damage if you do. Right. So let's do this. And also the black-white, if you can get the General's Lieutenant, is that it? The black-white, like that is another reason to go black-white. I don't think it's strong enough to like put you in that archetype per se.
Yeah.
But I think it is something that if you get it, you can, if you see it, it is something that you could kind of lean that direction where you don't have to be, where it wants you to kind of be humans, right? General's Enforcer. It wants you to be like humans, but just being like black, white, random stuff with Bastion of Remembrance. Where you're just like, I just want to turn whatever went into my graveyard into a 1/1 so it can die again.
Right.
Is perfectly fine.
Okay.
Then there's like the green-black decks. I kind of gravitate towards these. The problem is that the red-white deck sometimes doesn't need to attack you because they have Drana Stingers. So the fact that you have bigger creatures sometimes doesn't matter. Or the Bastion decks, they just attack into you and you take damage anyway. So like sometimes it's hard to go big without then kind of getting gone under.
Okay.
But the things the things that you can do in this that kind of pull you towards like green black is the a Titanith Rex, the cycling 11/11.
Yeah.
Right, getting one of those.
Trample.
Yeah, 11 on triple. Getting one of those early, then you get one of those, then you're kind of looking to like be able to cycle it early and then bring it back with Corpse Churn or Unbreakable Bond's reanimate spell, the green one that gets back a
reanimate fight spell.
No, that's back for more. The Survivor's Bond, right? Where you cycle it away early, and then once you hit your land drops, you get to bring it back.
Yeah.
But the dream is you cycle it away and you Unbreakable Bond.
Yeah.
To bring it back with lifelink, or you back for more the 4 green-black reanimate fight spell.
Yeah.
Or you do that. So the first way to kind of get into green-black is either the reanimation spells, and then you pair that.
Looking at those first.
Yeah, if you get those first, then you prioritize like Titanith Rex and the Sandworm.
Okay.
It's just things to like on turn 5 get something way above rate.
Yeah.
Right. So you can get into
Void
that.
Vector.
Yeah, Voidbeck, Space Godzilla. Yes.
Yeah, Space Godzilla.
Well, actual mythic Space Godzilla is angry, but I prefer the uncommon one. But yeah, you want those big things to cycle and pair with the reanimation spells. That deck is actually real if you get the uncommons, because the common cyclers are just good enough.
Yeah.
Like a Sandworm, like a turn 5 7/7 is
with
what I think is good enough.
Yeah. That can't be chumped by Death Touchers.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like to build this deck, or I end up building this deck a lot of times. I start with the really powerful high-end stuff, and then
work backwards.
Yeah, then build the ramp in later on. So Humble Naturalist, they come along usually pretty late, and then Fertilids as well.
Yeah.
I almost always look at my Fertilids as a ramp spell. So sometimes if I can, I'll wait till turn 5 to have Fertilid plus activation up.
Yeah.
Just to make sure I get that land. And then I always like to have some number of Essence Symbiotes because they pair so well with Migratory Greathorn. So you go Symbiote, Greathorn, you get something that is big enough that it can attack as a 4/5.
Yeah.
And it
on
gets
turn
you
3.
Yeah. And it gets you a land, and it gets you 2 life to kind of buffer your life total against the aggressive decks. So,
and if you're picking things like the Great Horn and Fertilid and the Mana Dork there, like these decks a lot of times turn into, like, it's easy to splash 2 other colors, right? Like if you got some good mutate colors in blue or red or whatever, you could kind of branch out a little bit and have a base black green deck, but then play some other mutate stuff.
Yeah, I rarely am just a 2-color green deck.
Yeah.
A lot of times it'll also put you into green-black or green-black-white or whatever, is you get an ultimatum.
Yeah.
Particularly like middle of the pack, right? You take like,
those ultimatums seem to go kind of late too.
They do.
Like I've gotten them as like 7th or 8th pick before.
Yeah, people are like, oh, you can't cast this, and it's like, no, you can. The format lets you cast them, and I think the green ones are just the most castable because you have the most ramp and fixing.
Yeah.
So you can be green-black or like base green, and you pick up a black removal spell, and then like you get an ultimatum, pack 2, pick 3, and you're like, all right, cool, I guess I'm Abzan now because I have this white ultimatum. And that's another thing where someone had asked me on Twitter, like, when you start picking lands.
Okay.
And in this deck, right, I think you can start picking lands kind of early. Like, if you have like a so-so pack, pick 9, 10, pack 1, like taking a green-blue land or a green-red land, like, as like, because you're like, I might splash green. Like, what if I open the 5-mana 6/6 Trampler in red? That's 2 red, red, green. You want to play that, and having just an extra random red source in your deck is going to make that easier to cast.
Yeah.
So this deck, you're kind of rewarded for those, mid-pack. Like, there's nothing super powerful. I have, like, all the power in my deck already. I just need to be able to cast these spells. But yeah, this deck sometimes just falls into being super powerful because you just get past all the green bombs that are, like, multicolored. And you're just like, oh, cool. And don't be afraid, like, if you have the Emergence Ultimatum and then someone passes you a Genesis Ultimatum, you can do that.
Yeah.
Like, 100%, you could do that in your deck. Just go for it.
Yeah, I mean, if we can do it in Sealed, then you can definitely do it in Draft.
Yeah. Another thing, I might value this card more than most people, but Honey Mammoth.
The fact that we're talking about it means you value it more than I do, so proceed.
Okay, 4 green for a 6/6. Enters the battlefield, gains 4 life.
Right.
The 4 life really, really helps you stabilize against the red-white cycling deck and the white-black and red-black decks, right? Because you play this, now you have a brick wall, and now they have to cycle 4 more cards through their Draenith Stinger to get you back to where you were. And they can't attack you anymore.
The difference between this and Draenith Healer, then, is that the 6/6 body is worth way more than a 2/2 body is?
Yeah, because it just locks up the ground a lot of times.
Okay.
Now, if they have, the Tactician, well, good game, everyone. But, like, if I have an Emergence Ultimatum, which happens way more than it should, like, I always try to have 1 or 2 Honey Mammoths in my deck so that when I cast the ultimatum, I can, like, get, like, Honey Mammoth, Sandworm, and, like, a removal spell or another just giant ridiculous creature.
Yeah.
And they almost always give you the Mammoth. And, like, a 6/6 that gains you 4 life. Just, you've ramped into your Emergence, and then that stabilizes the board and gives you a life buffer. So the Honey Mammoth is just a really solid way to kind of get your feet back under you after, like, an early rush.
Yeah. Another thing, while we're talking about that ultimatum in particular, is to make sure that you have some things that you can get, because I've drafted that ultimatum before and then just not had anything monocolor that was worth getting.
Yeah.
Like, I'd have some ramp or some, mediocre 4-drops, and, getting 2 mediocre 4-drops out of a, 7 mana difficult to cast spell really isn't where you want to be.
Yeah, I usually try to, if I have that, I try to at least have 1 or 2 Sandworms, 1 or 2 Honey Mammoths, removal type spells like Capture Sphere, or just regular hard removal, so that you have, like, a mix of, like, okay, I can get 2 removal spells in a creature, and you're either going to give me a creature that, like, effectively is a removal spell, or you're going to give me 2 removal spells and I'm going to, like, get the board under control and just use this to catch back up and just, get, a 2 for 1 and then be reasonable from there on out.
All right.
Another way that you get into the green deck is Kogla, the Titan.
Yeah, my boy. Yeah.
people see green, 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 and pass this card. I have had people pick one, look at 3 green, green, 7/6, enters the battlefield and fights the thing, and go, yeah, I don't want this card. It's got 3 green mana symbols, and pass it. And I've been like, cool. I want to be in green anyway.
Yep.
So if you get past the Titanape, just go with it. If you open a Titanape, green, green, green is not a big deal. You kind of want to be green anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So there are some of the draft archetypes and kind of how you stumble into them.
Okay. I got a quick section here about companions, and I put this purposefully between limited and standard because I wanted to talk about them both ways.
They are busted in all forms of Magic.
Okay. Since we just came off of limited, I want to talk about them in limited, though. And I know we touched on this real briefly before, but like, how and when is it okay to build them? Like, if you get, for whatever reason, if you get past Pack 2, Pick 3 Karuga.
In.
Yeah?
In. If you're base blue or base green, you're in.
Okay.
If you can, I was blue, like kind of a blue-red spells deck.
Mm-hmm.
Got past the Karuga, and I was like, all right, goodbye 5 cards, Karuga, you're in. And just like made it work. I was like, all right.
What about some of the ones that are a little bit harder to build around? Like Yorion.
I've tried to build Yorion as a companion once, and it was god awful. But then I just played against someone who had a bunch of cycling cards and had their Yorion in their like companion zone or whatever, and I had 2 capture spheres that I could never cast. And I just got. They played like 2 creatures, and my removal spells were capture spheres, and I couldn't play them because like they're just gonna get blinked,
and it does nothing.
It's like they get blinked, and then they have a 4/5 that I then have to capture sphere. It was just I can't figure this out. I think that one's pretty hard. I think early on you can do it, but I think also early on it can just be a 4/5. Like you can just take it and like not commit to the playing 60, because the problem is, we were talking about this with Logan, is like there were only like 3 or 4 picks that you can not have in your deck.
Yeah,
right?
In order to have enough cards to make it work.
It's really hard to play lands, because if you think you get 45 cards in your draft, you've got to play like 24 lands.
Yeah.
So you get 36 plus Yorion makes 37. So
you got 8 cards.
And 3 of them might be basic lands.
Right.
Right. And if you draft a land, like what do you do? Like, you've got to find another playable. I think that one's hard.
Okay. What about like Zerda? That one's got to be really hard to build around, right?
Zerda just wants you to play red-white cycling. So, again, if you take it early on, I think you're just in the red-white cycling deck. Because that's the only way that kind of works. You can also get around it a little bit, right? Like kind of being tokeny, because then you're, right, Forbidden Friendship isn't a permanent in your deck. So then that was like weaponize the monsters and stuff be better, but I think you gotta have to be in the cycling deck. That one is harder. And the payoff's not huge. Like the 3/3 is good. Yeah. But it's not a huge payoff.
Okay. And then like Jengatha, like that one's kind of just a free roll, right? There's not a whole lot that you miss out on having double pips in your mana costs.
Yeah, I played a red-white cycling deck that had this. There's not a single red-white cycling spell that has a double mana cost on it. So you can take this.
Well, the dinosaur.
The 6/4 first striker?
No, the one that cycles. This is just like a vanilla 3/6 or whatever.
No, it's 1 white.
I thought it was 3 white.
No, it's 5 and a white.
Oh, all right.
So yeah, you just take Jengatha first pick, and then you like get past the Zenith Flare, you're in red-white cycling, and it's just good enough, just in limited every game, knowing that you have a 5/5 on turn 5. Yeah, is just good enough, and so. There is some deck building constraint, but not a huge one. Like, it's something that you can easily avoid.
Yeah.
So it's definitely early on. I think even early pack 2, I think you can just go in on it if you're green or red.
Okay.
So Obosh, I've not seen him as a companion too much.
Yeah, that one's got to be pretty tough to draft.
It is. Like, not having any 2s.
Yeah.
Is a problem.
Yeah.
Like, now you can definitely like have the draft where you like Obosh into Bastion of Remembrance and to weaponize the monsters, and then you just need garbage. You're just like, I take every Whisper Squad I see and I'm going to win this draft. Just like Scorpions and Whisper Squads. All I want to draft. But I think you can do it. I think like if you get this early pack 1, you can lean in and try. I think that in pack 2, usually I think you have to throw away too many picks to make it work.
The couple times I've seen Lutri, it's been almost a free roll too.
Yeah. I've messed up a few times. Like, I was drafting and I was like, I took Lutri and I was like, I took a Pacifism, and then I saw another one. I was like, oh, Pacifism. And then I went, no, I wasn't supposed to take that. Yeah, Lutri is usually kind of a free roll. I mean, it's limited, so you don't often have multiples of spells.
Right.
When I was playing the guy who was 36th in Mythic, I got him to 1, but midway through the game, he cast a Channel Force to blue-red instant. Yeah. Deal X, discard X, draw X, and copied it with Lutri and drew 6 cards.
Whew.
Well, netted himself 3, and I was like, oh, now I'm not going to be able to come back from this. Yeah, Lutri's kind of a free roll. I think Garuda isn't a free roll, but early on, it's definitely worth just going in on. I've gone in on and on in like pack 2.
Yeah.
But that's really kind of like what the rest of your deck looks like.
Right.
But you can kind of audible in pack 2.
Yeah.
Again, it's just perfectly fine in your deck. Umari the Collector.
Okay, what about Umari?
I think that I've
drafted this deck twice.
Okay, I've not drafted it.
Okay. It's pretty easy to draft.
Yeah.
Normally you end up with a bunch of creatures anyway, like just throughout the course of a draft. So you're realistically only cutting a couple spells. And a lot of the creatures have enough, especially in these colors, have enough utility where they can kind of double as removal spells. The like the Blitz, was it Blitz Leech or whatever?
Blitz Leech, yeah.
Is much better in the Umari deck because it can kill something. The thing that mutates and -2/-2 something is worth more in this deck, just because you want your creatures to be able to do things as well.
Yeah. This was another one that if you get it late in your green X, you can just put it in your deck.
Oh yeah, I mean a lot of these are good enough to just go in your deck.
But you know, I've had it where I've played this on turn 3, and then basically it's been a mana dork the whole game. It's just like name creature, cast my 5-drop a turn early, and that's just great. I had a deck where I had Amori and Garuda as not my companions. They were just in the deck because I got them too late, and I was like, all right, cool. Yeah. So, Loris, I think that you have to, if you get it early, you can build it, and that's where you get like the white-black aggressive deck where you're playing Whisper Squads and just garbage, but that garbage deals enough early damage, and then like the kind of staying power that Loris gives you in the mid to late game kind of takes you over the top.
Yeah, I mean, the only problem, though, is like that deck also wants to be that Bastion of Remembrance deck, which you don't get to play.
Which you don't get to play.
If you play Loris, yeah.
Yeah, but it does get to play Weaponize the Monsters.
It does.
Yeah. Also, that stupid beetle, the durable whatever.
Coil Bug, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like, that card just sets up so many engines in this format. I had someone try to grind me out with Weaponize the Monsters.
Yeah.
I was at 1... And I was at 3, and I active treasoned a token, so they had to throw it at me to put me at 1. Yeah. Then they had a Coil Bug in their graveyard and enough mana to bring it back and cast it.
Yeah.
and then not enough to activate. So they cast something else. They cast a 3-drop, and I convoluted it, and they had to tap out. And then I copied their weaponize the monsters, and then killed the things, killed their blocker, played a hasty guy, attacked them for 8, and then threw something at them with their weaponize and killed them. But that thing, I've had people draw like 6 cards with it and like the Bushmeat Poacher.
Yeah.
Just used it like at the end of games where you've kind of ground them out of resources, and but you're at like 6, and they're just like, play the Coil Bug, block, throw it at you, get it back. Play, and you're just like, oh my god, I'm gonna lose to this stupid 2/2. But yeah, Loris. Getting back to Loris, I think Loris. I am yet to beat a Loris as a companion.
Okay.
In sealed or in draft, I am 0 for 4.
Wow.
It's just always this seems like a pile, and then you like you get in the situation where they're just like, deadweight your thing, play Loris, deadweight your other thing, and you're like, oh god.
Ugh.
Well,
yeah, that's gross.
This was fun.
Yeah.
And then another one I've had like mixed results on is Kahira, the Orphan Guard. Like, I've taken it early and tried to build around it, and I had 3 like awful drafts with it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just me or if like the cats and elementals and nightmares and dinosaurs and beasts aren't good enough.
Yeah, I don't think I've lost to that deck yet. I played against it a couple times, and it just seems subpar.
Yeah, you just have, like, your creatures are just so bad.
Yeah.
The fact that they get +1/+1 in Vigilance doesn't make up for the fact that it's a 2-mana 1/4 Vigilance.
Right.
Right, you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, also, back to Loris X for a second, they always play Corpse Churn or some other way to rebuy it. Like, their whole game plan is, I've got 3 Corpse Churns and a Loris. It's never going to die. I'm just going to keep casting it. And I'm just going to... And you're just like, oh my gosh. But yeah, that's the one I've not figured out. The Kahira, I've not figured that one out yet. That one and Yorian, I've just not figured out how to make those work. Like, what the shell is.
Okay.
For it. And then, like I said, Karuga, halfway through pack 2, if somehow you get one, you can probably bail if you're green. Also, I want to be green. If you look at like the companions, Garuda is black, so he goes in that green-black or green-blue kind of shell. Karuga is green-blue. Amori is green-black. So like you have the 3, I think, best limited in Giganta or whatever. Those 4 are probably the least, like, are probably the best ones for limited. Yeah. And they're touching green or black. And you just get to like, stumble into them. You're like, oh, cool. I get to play this. I get to play this 5/5 ahead of schedule. Awesome. Yeah. It is super awkward though that your 5/5 is also a mana dork. Like, why? Why?
That makes 5 mana though.
It does. That sometimes you get to use 2 of. I've used this to be like my 3rd black source to cast Bastion of Remembrance. Oh yeah. Yeah. Red white cycling with a Bastion. It's just like, what's my black source? My 5/5. I'll always have it. It's fine.
It casts like half of the ultimatums by itself.
It does. I've never got to use it to cast an ultimatum. Well, you can't have it.
Oh, you can't have ultimatum in your deck
if it's your companion. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awkward.
Sad times. Quick thing on ultimatums before we go forward.
Okay.
The Mardu one might be the best in limited, but I don't know how you're ever casting that thing.
Yeah. No.
No idea. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've talked about companions in limited.
Yeah. You want to talk about them in not necessarily standard, but constructed?
When we saw the companion mechanic, we were like, well, it's a sideboard slot. And we were like, well, we don't know how good a card in your hand is versus a sideboard slot. Right. We now know it is really, really, really good.
Yeah. Like the best.
Like, absolutely. People are just playing what should just be garbage fires. Right. Up until last week, if a new player came to you and said, hey, I've got this sweet 80 card deck, you'd be like, nah, you've got a sweet 60 card deck with 20 too many cards in it.
Yeah.
Right? Now it's like, oh, is Yorion your commander?
Companion.
Companion, whatever. Is he your companion? Because 80 card miracles in Legacy, a thing.
Yeah, who'd have ever thought that would be the case?
80 card ban, like in Standard, a thing.
Yeah.
I've seen 80 card Jeskai Fires.
Yep.
That one's like the least egregious.
I've got beat by 80 card fires.
Yes.
Because you know what they do? They draw a bunch of cards, and then they bounce their fires, and then they get to play all their cards before their fires comes back.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's gross.
Yes. So even that one that you looked at and you were like, 80 cards. Bah,
yeah.
That seems bad. Nope. Busted.
Yeah.
Loris of the Dream Den. Like I said last week, I'm glad the cards aren't out in paper. Yeah. Because I would have spent $40 to get a foil one for my Legacy deck, and it will probably be banned by the end of May.
And you think it'll be banned by the time it comes out?
Maybe in multiple formats.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw Jerry T was like, oh, this Esper Control deck is pretty sweet. It was Cryptics and Azure Mage's Charms, Snapcasters, the WinCon, one Loris in the board. It was just a pile. It was a pile of Thoughtseizes, removal, and counterspells with 3 Snapcasters and a Loris. Only way to win the game. He was like, yeah, 5-0'd the daily. Super easy. Deck's great.
I mean, we can talk about that for a second if you want to. Loris has single-handedly caused Mishra's Bauble to be like a $15 card again.
Yeah, because
through 2 reprints.
Yes, I was looking at a deck list, and it was like Loris. It was a Loris something, and it had baubles, and it was like 4 baubles were like $80, and I was like, how? Yeah. It just got reprinted. I bought
twice.
Them for $5.
Just got reprinted twice. It got reprinted in, was it Ultimate Masters?
Yeah.
And then it got reprinted again in Mystery Boosters.
And they're like $15 or $20 a piece because people are just like jamming them into their Loris decks.
Yeah, I mean, it just lets you draw 2 cards every turn.
Yeah, for nothing.
Right, for no investment.
And it lets you look at the top card of your deck to be like, oh, I should probably shuffle.
Yeah, or your opponent's deck, so you have virtual perfect information.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I know what's in your hand now. Cool. Yeah. Loris.
For the rest of the game, yeah.
Yeah, Loris is busted in like Vintage, which everyone's like, no one cares. But if you print a card in Standard and it breaks Vintage
immediately,
like the day they released on Magic Online, it was like, oh, this is busted.
Yep.
Breaks Vintage, breaks Legacy, breaks Modern. It hasn't broken Pioneer, but no one's really playing Pioneer that I've seen.
Yeah, I don't think really anybody is.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Everyone that like is playing or was playing Pioneer is either jamming player drafts on Arena or abusing Loris in older formats.
Yeah. So, Loris is absurd. I think we talked about Garuda before. Garuda is like a decent Standard deck.
Mm-hmm.
A good to decent Standard deck. And is the new Charbelcher in Legacy.
I hadn't heard that.
Oh, yeah. You mulligan to 2 Lion's Eye Diamonds.
Okay.
And then you cast your Garuda, and your deck is every 4 mana, 2 or 4 mana clone printed in the game.
Oh.
So you play 4 Phantasmal Image, 4 Spark Doubles, 4, there's like a random one from like Kamigawa block. I've seen Ultra Ego, the 2 blue-green one. You basically are at like 20 or 24 clone effects.
Okay.
And you can play your Garuda on turn 1.
Mm-hmm.
Copy it, until you hit a Dragon Lord Kolagon. Called it, by the way. And then all your creatures have haste and you kill them.
All right.
It plays all the fast mana. So Ancient Tombs, Chrome Moxes, and things like that, because you can like go in on casting your Garuda every game on turn 3.
Is there a better way to build that deck?
I don't know. I think it was an article you sent. It was a TCG Player article, like all the different builds, and it was super all in. It was, kind of the quaintness of like Charbelcher, where it's going to win. Sometimes it's going to win on turn 1, or just like pack up all of its cards and be done.
Well, I mean, the nice thing about that deck, though, is you're blue, so you get to play Force of Will, Force of Negation.
No. Garuda.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You get to play Days.
You get to play Days. Yeah, I mean, you could play Days. Like, you could play,
Pact and Negation.
Pact and Negation is... Oh, it's just Stone 0.
It's 0, so it's even, yeah.
Yeah, you could play Pact of Negation and just be like, I'm all in, and I've got to hit my Dragon Lord to get there.
Well, that's what I was thinking, though, is if you could almost play mana-less. Okay. The cards go to your graveyard, right?
Yeah.
So if you get enough clone effects and go mana-less, you can mill your deck and then Dread Return Thassa's Oracle.
When you were saying that, I was like, Dread Return is even. I'm here for this. Yeah, you could. Like, you would have 2 outs. You could, like, the mill yourself. Also, though, a backup win con, if you go off on turn 1 but don't find the Dragon Lord, you can mill your opponent out.
This is also true.
On turn 1.
Oh, yeah, you don't even need Dread Return Thassa's Oracle. Like, you just mill your opponent.
Turn 1, you could just mill your opponent out.
I guess unless you're playing Sneak and Show, because then they're going to have Emrakul's.
So angry. So angry. But yeah, like this card, it's, I think, an interesting deck in Legacy. I don't know if it's particularly good or has staying power. Like, I don't know why there isn't a modern version of it. It's a little bit slower, but like...
Well, it's a lot slower because you don't have LEDs.
Yeah, but all the ways you could get a prime time on turn 3. Now you can get a Garuda on turn 3. And you know what it hits? Prime time.
Prime time. Yeah.
You can just Garuda, like turn 3 6 mana off bounce lands. Garuda, spin the wheel. Oh, look. Prime time. Go.
Yeah.
Get 2 lands. Lutri hasn't done anything. It actually has a deck building constraint. I've not seen anyone talking about Obosh as like a commander or as a companion in constructed formats.
People are playing it in standard.
Okay.
The true sacrifice deck is an Obosh.
Oh yeah, because you're playing. I guess you don't get Priest of Forgotten Gods, but you get Mayhem Devil and Cat Oven. Yeah.
Yep. There's actually 2 versions of the sacrifice deck right now. Okay. Like the more pure version is an Obosh deck. The more aggro version is a Loris deck.
Gotcha. Oh, going back to Loris for a second, I forgot to mention in Modern. Loris Burn.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a free roll, and you get all your Swift Spears, Goblin Guides, whatever.
Yeah, you just get a 3/2 out of your sideboard every game.
Right. Yep.
That, like, on turn... if you
like, every card in your deck fits the deck building constraint anyway, so...
Yeah, I was going to say, well, no, you lose Riftbolt, but it's like, no, it's only permanent. So they would have just made it cards 2 or less.
Yeah.
Loris isn't busted. But because they made it permanent, like, if it matched Karuga... then it's not busted. But because it's like different, it's totally busted.
Yep.
People have messed around with Amori. I've seen some videos and some stuff about like picking Artifact as your type. Because you get all your artifact creatures plus all the artifacts. Interesting. So a Steel Overseer that costs 1 mana is really good.
Yeah, really good.
So I've seen people kicking around Amori in like artifact shells.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's good, but I've seen, like, I think Jerry T talked about it on their podcast. I saw, I think Pleasant Kenobi played a deck. I think I saw an article or something. But yeah, there's some of him kicking around. Zerta, people want to ban it in Legacy as well.
Oh, with like Grim Monolith?
And Basalt Monolith.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just infinite mana.
Yeah.
And so you can just, like, Monolith, you play, like, Grid Monolith, this, and then you're just, like, make an arbitrarily large Walking Ballista and kill you.
Yeah. Gross.
Yeah, so This one has issues in older formats, particularly Legacy. I've not seen anyone do anything with it elsewhere.
Yeah, I don't think I have either.
Jegantha just randomly gets to go in random decks. We talked about this before.
Yeah, the Niv to Light decks.
Niv to Light, it's in Modern Humans. Just because.
Is that the best one for humans, though?
There's too many 3-mana humans for Loras.
Yeah, that's true.
But like I've seen it there, like it shows up randomly, and then Karuga is like a standard all-star.
Yeah,
it just goes in the Fires decks and in the Jeskai control decks or Bant decks.
Yeah,
it's just almost a free roll. In like blue-red decks, you're just like, oh, I have my Bone Crusher Giant and my Brazen Borrower.
Well, I mean, it's exactly what you want in a control deck, though, because it's a win con that you don't ever have to draw.
You never have to draw it, and when you do draw it, when you do get to play it, it draws you 3 cards.
Right.
You're like, I have a Narset, I have a Teferi, I have this Elspeth Conquers Death. I'll play this and draw 3 cards. Oh, you killed it, I'll get it back with Elspeth Conquers Death.
Right.
You're just like, because I think like they've stopped playing Dream Trawler. Like they're just
that's scary.
They're just on like all removal spells and counter spells, and it's like Karuga. Cool. I think the only one that really hasn't seen any play is Kahira. Like that.
Well, in Lutri.
In Lutri, yeah. But Kahira, I think that restraint is too much.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, the restraint is play a jank deck.
Yes.
Which nobody wants to do.
Nobody wants to do. I think that when they made these, I think in their head they thought all the constraints were play a jank deck.
Yeah.
And they're not. Only like 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
Like 3 of them are like jank deck, right? Lutri and Kahira and Yorion reads like jank deck, but isn't somehow.
Right. Well, I mean, there's been recently that have talked about like maybe 60 cards isn't like the correct number of cards for constructed decks anyway. Like, wasn't that like a Sam Black thing last year? He was talking about like maybe for a control deck or something in Modern, like 60 cards isn't what you should be playing.
Just because you don't have enough variety of stuff to answer everything?
Well, that was part of it. He had like a whole article. There was multiple reasons.
I mean, you could also argue like with how many cards there are in Magic now. That right, like 60 cards was set up when Magic was like, I don't know, 60 cards in a limit of 4 was when Magic was a much smaller card pool. Now,
well, yeah, I mean, when that restraint was put in place, it was just Alpha Beta Unlimited.
Yeah, I mean, maybe like the constraint should be 80.
Yeah,
because maybe decks become less streamlined and less
less homogenous.
Less homogenous and less like repetitive. You don't get as many repetitive game states.
Yeah.
So if you have a companion, by all means, have fun.
Yep.
Play it, but realize that there is a chance that 2 of them may go away.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you read the Matt Sperling Sick of It All article?
I did not. I read a couple articles about them. His was not one that I read, though.
He just was pointing out how games that have put in a starting condition have often quickly like gone away, just because of the fact that it leads to repetitive game states, or one of the conditions is way better than all the other ones. So you just have to always...
What do you mean? Like, give me an example.
So his example was I think it was the Star Wars TCG back in the day. And he said they started out with these like starting, I think they were like missions. Okay. And what happened was it went from you got to play all the cards, right? Mm-hmm. To there's 2 or 3 missions that are way better than the other missions. So the value that you got from your mission was too good not to play a mission.
Oh,
and then that meant that you only ended up playing, instead of there were 1,000 cards and 500 of them were playable. Now there's 1,000 cards and 100 of them are playable because they support the three missions that are good, right? And we could be, and like his argument is, are we in a situation where, Legacy, you could, there were 15 really good, like tier 1 decks, let's say, but you could sit down and play against any kind of nonsense because, there are 15,000 Magic cards or 20,000 or whatever, and 5,000 of them are playable in Legacy, or 3,000, right? But if you're, if Loris is by far the best companion, well, now that really narrows the cards that are now playable in Legacy, because if having a Loris is so much better than not having a Loris, then you just always have to play Loris. So you can't play the 3,000 playable Legacy cards. You have to play the 1,000 cards or the 500 cards that support Loris. Right? Because if Loris is so much better than everything else, you can't play Sneak and Show.
True.
Like, it's like, well, no, I have to have Loris as my companion. I can't play Emrakul anymore. Right. So, like, if Loris is the best thing to do in Legacy, that means Sneak and Show is not playable. Yeah. And so his point was just that when you have these starting conditions, they narrow your deck building space into what supports that condition. And then I think Zvi Mousewitz had a tweet where it was in the article, where it was some other card game where he and his play group like always played this game, and then they came out with like a starting condition similar to Companions. And he said, we went to release weekend, we all played, we looked at each other and said, we're done here, right? And we never played again. Yeah. Now,
that's actually like a really good take, is to get Zvi's take on it, because like just his like approach to deck building is different than most people's, where most people would look at a format and say, oh, this is an engine that I want to build. His approach is to look at like what the cards let you do, what the mana in particular lets you do, and then build from there. And I guess like a Companion fits his deck building approach in much the same way, where instead of looking at like see what the mana lets you do, you look at the most absurd, Companion and see what that lets you do.
What constraint does this Companion put on my deck building? How can I make the most busted thing within that constraint? Yeah. Magic's not going to go away. I don't want it to come off like I'm saying that. Yeah. But with kind of the outcry from the Vintage and Legacy and Modern and Limited people, I've never heard LR talk about bans before. Yeah. When they got to the Companions on the Rare and Mythic set review, Marshall went on like a 5-minute tangent about how people are talking about maybe we should ban Companions in Limited. Not banning Companions the cards, but banning Companion the mechanic. The mechanic. Yeah. Right? Because he was like, imagine if you were able to go to a paper sealed event, right? Yeah. And you sat down and it's like, hey, how's it going? Oh, pretty good. My companion for this game is Garuga. Yeah. Karuga. And you're just like, oh, well, I'm behind because I didn't have one in my sealed pool. This person always has a 5/4. Yeah. Okay, let's try this.
So this is a good segue into what I wanted to talk about next. Okay. I have the couple of articles that I've read from various pros around Magic Universe have proposed ways to fix Companions. Have you read any of these?
No, I've not.
Okay. One of them was to either reduce, like if you have a Companion, reduce your starting hand by 1. Not like off the rip, but like you've taken 1 mulligan, so you get to look at 7 and then put 1 back, and then you always have access to your Companion. Another one was to do the same thing, but put it in your hand. That way, at least like your opponent has the chance to thought seize it or something, or like interact with it in some way. Yeah. Because one of the really awkward parts about Companion is that you have actual 0 ways to interact with it until they go to cast it, which may or may not ever happen.
Yeah, no, I've had games where just like in Limited where like, you have to hold up Essence Scatter because I'm going to play this at some point. Or, like I'm going to play my Honey Mammoth and not my Garuda. And are you gonna Essence Scatter this? Yeah. Nope. Okay, I have a 6/6. Even if it doesn't get cast, it has an impact on the game.
Right.
Right. And putting it in your hand, like you said, you could Thoughtseize it. You could do something as opposed to just being like having this like, knife hanging over your head of, well, I'm gonna get got here on some turn.
Mm-hmm.
Other than Garuda, which people are playing 4 of, like the Loris decks, you play a Loris. It's never in your it's never in your main deck. It's in the sideboard. The Zerta decks, never in the main deck. Always one on the board.
Eobus decks are only playing 1.
Yeah. So, like, it's not like they're gonna see it again, right? It's just the one.
Yep.
So it's very different than how Magic's played, because like you play 4 of a card because you want to draw it in your opening hand or like see it in your first 3 or 4.
Exactly.
Right? Here you play 1 and that's always in your opening hand.
Yeah.
So I think you could do a few things. Like those ideas with like keeping Companion as a thing, I think is fine. It might help. But maybe the Companion mechanic was a mistake.
Yeah. Well, like both of those things were framed from the point of view that like we are, even though we're not really right now, we are a paper game. So you can't really like functionally errata cards because you can't change what's printed on the card.
Yes.
So those are both ways to fix Companion without having to like errata cards.
Yeah.
You could change the rules of the mechanic to, make it less of a handicap to not have one and then go from there. Those are things that could be done like within Magic rules that don't have to, erase a portion of a card and pencil in something else.
Yeah.
There is like a whole other school of thought though that I have seen a lot less frequently, but I have seen, multiple. I think I read one article. There was somebody tweeting about it. I saw a post on Reddit about it. And that's that Companions are going to be okay, but not right now. And that's because there's not enough of them. Kind of think of them like Planeswalkers, where they're like a new shiny thing that is so far only in one set. But maybe after we have, a few sets of these, you're not at as much of a disadvantage because there's going to be one somewhere, sometime that's going to fit the deck that you want to play.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was kind of a unique take. Like, it wasn't something that I had thought about until I had read it.
Yeah, I guess that, let's say they made 10 more.
Right.
Is it 10? Yeah, 10 more. That had different constraints. Well, now you get to play different decks that have companions, but if every deck has a companion, that seems odd.
Well, I mean, it's just a different... It's just different. That's why I kind of compared it to Planeswalkers, because like when Planeswalkers first came out, I wasn't playing then. I know you weren't playing then, but like that was a big thing. Is like Planeswalkers have ruined the game. This is a new permanent that's hard to interact with, that gains value every turn. You feel inherently disadvantaged if you're not playing one of them. And then kind of over time, Planeswalkers have evolved into something that is more interactable, and they have such varied abilities that chances are you can find, like if you wanted that, you could find one to slot into your deck.
Yeah, I guess it's just, right, it would be weird, like not every deck plays Planeswalkers. It'd be weird if like every deck kind of had to play a companion. Because if the rule remains unchanged, it's like, oh, if I don't have a deck that has a companion, then I'm down a card.
Yeah.
So if they print 10 more companions, now you just have, twice as many companions.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also, like with Planeswalkers, they know when they push a Planeswalker, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Well, right, but they didn't for a long time.
They didn't know when they didn't push them, or they didn't know when they pushed them?
Well, yeah, they didn't know when they pushed them.
Right? Like, so.
I mean, look at Oko.
Yeah, well, as we've talked about, they didn't play that card properly.
They didn't think it was a problem. They didn't feel that was a pushed card.
Yes. Which, wow.
Yeah.
The same people that brought you Oko brought you Loris. But my point
Turns
being...
out 3 mana is the hot spot.
Yeah. But what I mean is, okay, so you have... So if next time they have companions, maybe they dial them back.
Yeah.
Right? And then they're not playable. Right? Because there's a fine line where these could have all been not playable or only playable in limited.
Mm-hmm.
But they missed. Right? Mm-hmm. But they could have easily just turned the knobs a little bit.
Yeah.
And, made them unplayable.
Right.
And so what if the next time they do it and they miss and they make them all not good enough?
Mm-hmm.
So then you're just like, oh, it's just the 10 that are good.
Right.
I don't know. Typically, I'll just kind of play whatever. Mm-hmm. Right? Like if I have to have a Loris to play Legacy, I'll have a Loris to play Legacy.
Right. I mean, I'm going to have a Loris regardless of if it gets banned or not. I plan on getting one at some point.
Yeah. There's Loris Jund now.
There sure is.
Yeah.
You lose Lily. Is it even Jund without Lily? I don't know.
I mean,
my heart aches.
I mean, you're swapping one $80 Planeswalker for more red and 6s, so like you're still spending the most money possible.
You caught me. That's why I like Jund. I love hemorrhaging money.
That's the
my
joke.
Dirty little secret.
That's the joke, right? Is it can't be a Jund card unless it's $60.
Yeah, and if it's not $60, you're playing the wrong version.
You're playing the wrong version of Jund, exactly.
Well, I meant the wrong version of that card.
Oh yeah,
like every card in Jund has a version of it that's
$60+
expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how much of the companions is the bright shiny thing, where everyone's just trying them out.
Yeah, I mean that could be too.
And so you're getting like they're overrepresented because they're just everyone's trying them.
Yeah.
Or how much of it is like these are just all busted. Like I think Loris is kind of in the place that Underworld Breach was in.
Yeah.
Right, where the only thing you were supposed to do in Legacy was play Underworld Breach.
Oh my God, Loris buys back Underworld Breach.
It does.
Oh.
It does.
Yeah.
Yes. But right, so it was like everyone just plays Underworld Breach. And all the Legacy people were like, oh my God, Underworld Breach is busted. And then they banned Underworld Breach like a month later.
Right.
Right. So I don't know how much of this is going to be, oh man, Loris is busted. Hey. And then it gets banned out of Legacy, but like hangs out in Modern for a while.
Right.
Or hangs out somewhere else. Also, fun fact, Garuda, I know my head's going places. You know what it gets back? It gets back Inverter of Truth and Thassa's Oracle.
Yeah, it does.
Yes, it does. Which one do you need? I got you. I got you, buddy. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, you mill over Thassa's Oracle and Inverter? That's fine. Get your Inverter, put that Thassa's Oracles in your deck. It's fine.
Yeah.
No problems here. Hopefully in a month or something, people calm down and we go back to kind of like normal Magic. But
yeah, I mean, part of this might be exasperated because like we don't have real events to play right now either.
Yeah. But I mean,
who knows what it'll look like in a month?
Very true. But I mean, just think about like we had Oko, which Oko like
broke everything,
and only now exists in Vintage and Legacy. Then we had Underworld Breach, which kind of broke everything.
Yeah.
And currently does not exist in Legacy.
Right.
And now Loris has people not playing Oko in Legacy to play Loris.
Yeah.
You know what? This busted 3-mana Planeswalker costs too much. Can't do it.
That's right. See ya.
Gotta go. I gotta play my little like Cat Nightmare.
Yep.
Let's go. I also just had a thought. So
what's that?
Cat Nightmare. Okay, hear me out.
Cat Nightmare. Yep.
Is the squirrel... Why is it... So the Helica Glider is a nightmare squirrel.
It is.
Why is Loris a cat nightmare?
Instead of a nightmare cat?
Yeah.
I don't know.
What's up with that?
Alphabetical?
Maybe.
Nightmare squirrel. Cat Nightmare. I don't know.
Like human soldier and human cleric, it would sound really weird to be a cleric human. But
true.
But those are alphabetical. I don't get it. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Random.
Anyways.
Okay. Volpakeet. Foxbird.
Foxbird.
Not bird fox.
It's true.
So there's some serious hard-hitting Magic analysis for the fans. Why is it Cat Nightmare and not Nightmare Cat? All right.
So normally we do an arena segment here. And we have a whole bunch of things to talk about. But because everything's on arena right now, that's all we've been talking about. So we really don't have an arena segment. However, I just did the latest workshop event or whatever, which is basically like 2 pre-con Brawl decks that you play against each other.
I'm sorry.
And I just realized that we keep winning these haversacks of fame for these workshop events. And I have no idea what they do.
Neither do I.
Like, there's no way to... I must have won a dozen of them by now. I have no way to track them.
So, a quick Google search.
Did you find an answer? Yeah.
On Reddit, what is Haversack of Favor? Okay. The first response was, it is a random reward between 500 gold, 500 experience, and a rare IRC, I think. It's chosen randomly when you win your first game. Someone said it can definitely be a mythic IRC because I got a great henge.
Oh.
There you go. So it is one of those things.
Okay, there's my answer.
There you go. There's
I need to learn
answer.
how to Google, I guess.
I was just curious myself.
Yeah.
Also, the daily deals. I don't know if it's just the weekends, but Saturday and Sunday the daily deals were free money again.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if there's every weekend they're gonna like make it free money.
I don't know. I got thinking about it today because I noticed that, was it yesterday? It was just free money again.
Yeah.
It might be something that they're just doing because like there's so many people playing arena right now. They're trying to like keep it rolling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe once things are somewhat back to normal, whenever that happens, they'll stop doing this kind of stuff. But I mean, I'm for it. I think it's kind of a cool way to not only get people looking at like spending money on things that don't necessarily exist, but also like kind of a neat way to keep people engaged in the game.
Yeah, I mean, and it encourages people to like log in every day to see what the daily deal is. When the daily deal was just card sleeves, I think that's going to bring people in, or card styles.
Right.
But like, oh, hey, like I can get closer to my next draft.
Yep.
If I do this thing, well, then I should totally do that thing.
Yeah, ever since the first time they did it, I've checked them almost every day.
Yeah. So there you go. Keep looking out for free money. I tweeted out the last 2.
Yep.
So when it's free money, I will try to let you guys know.
Yeah.
My limited train is running out of steam right now. So I will probably have to cycle back to the world of constructed. So next week, we may have some constructed stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I have a little bit of constructed stuff to talk about, but I think we've gone long enough this week, so we can save it for next week.
Yeah.
And if you're on Patreon, I have mentioned to our couple patrons what some neat standard things are to do right now. Quick Patreon plug.
Yes. So you should totally go there.
Yeah. So check out our Patreon, patreon.com/casualtryhardmtg.
Yeah. So if you are trying to get a hold of us, you can message one of us on Arena. That's what Ken did to let us know he was alive.
Ken actually sent us a message on Facebook also.
Ken is alive, guys. We no need to go like send out a search party.
Ken is alive. Yep. Thank you, Ken.
Yeah. But if you want to tweet at us, you're alive, or show ideas or anything like that, get at us at Casual Tripod on Twitter.
Yep. You can hit us up on Facebook at Casual Tryhard MTG. You can still email us, show@casualtryhardmtg.com. I think, like, if you go back historically, more people have emailed us questions or whatever than just about any other platform. So that's completely reasonable if that's what you want to do. We do really want to hear from you, though. I want to make sure everybody's okay, make sure everyone's having fun on Arena, and by all means, let us know what you want to hear about, because I don't think we're going to have a whole lot to talk about for the foreseeable future anyway. So
yeah,
let us know what you want to learn about.
We will do our best to find you guys some stuff.
Yep. If you're looking to pick up any cards, make sure you use our TCG affiliate link, tcg.casualtryhardmtg.com. And I think that's about it. So we will catch you guys on Arena.
We will see you on the interwebs.